Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to tie a tie. This is a Windsor knot or full Windsor. I'm going to use a couple of tricks that I picked up that helped me to learn along the way. So first thing, starting off with the tie, you put the tie around your neck. You have your collar up, put it around your neck from the back. You want to have it so that the thick side is on your dominant side. Thick end is on the dominant side, dominant hand, so that's the right for me. And the trick here for starting out is how much of each side to have hang down. However far the thick side hangs down, that's going to determine where the tie ends up falling when it's done. So wherever you start, when it falls down, that's going to determine where it ends up. And where you want it to end up, where I like it to end up, is right below the navel there, kind of towards the bottom of the shirt. That looks the best, that frames it. If you have it too far down, past the belt, it looks sloppy. Have it too high, and it looks, kind of childish, so it doesn't look good. So, besides the knot itself, where it hangs down, where it falls is the most important part. Now, when I was learning it, and I was learning how to do it, looking up videos on the internet, the way I was taught was that you look at kind of this thin end. So when you first start your knot, you bring the thick part in front. You have however much of this thin end is hanging out. That's going to determine how far you're going to fall down. So you want to kind of calibrate that. And if you had one tie, or you had all your ties were the same length, that would be an easy way to tell. That'd probably be the easiest way to tell. My ties are all slightly different length, and when you're talking about a difference of a couple of inches, if one tie is a couple inches longer or shorter, that can affect, a couple inches there and there can affect a lot how good the tie looks. So what I do is I look at the other end, I look at the long end, and I determine how far it falls down. And I kind of have a spot for me where I know that a few inches, when it falls a few inches past the crotch there, I know that where it's going to fall down. It's going to fall down in just the right spot for me. So I just look for that every time. Wherever I know that this is the right length for me, a few inches down past the crotch, it's going to fall in the right place. So starting the knot, how the knot starts is we wrap around that thick part in front of the thin part there, and this is the basis for the tie. This is the cornerstone. This is where we start. So the technique here, how to think of this, is we're going to do a wrap around each side. So I'm going to do a wrap around the left side, a wrap around the right side, and that's going to create this kind of triangle shape that I'll then wrap that final knot around and pull the tie through. So you were thinking about creating that wrap on each side. So the first wrap, I hold the tie together with my dominant hand there, my right hand, and this first wrap is going to start on the outside, and it comes in through that hole, and we wrap around that left side of that knot there. Okay? Now, something to think about while you're doing this, while you're doing these first wraps, is how the wraps look. That determines how the tie is going to look at the very end. So you want to make sure as you're doing these wraps that everything is flat, everything looks good, because that's going to affect your knot, how good your knot looks. So for example, the wrap, how tight I do these wraps, if the tighter they are, the smaller the knot's going to be. The looser they are, the looser the knot's going to be. So I like them tight, so I like to do a little tight wrap there. Now, we're going to do our right wrap next. So we have our left wrap. Now we're going to come around the back, and as I do that, I'm going to switch hands. So I'm going to grab that knot with my left hand now, and then I'm going to pull the thick end around the back. Now I have it around the back. Now I start again on the outside, come in through that hole. Now I have my left and my right, and you see how that comes together to create that triangle I was talking about. That's the body of the knot. That's the shape of the knot right there. You want to have that in the shape that you want your final knot to be. So I like that nice and tight. I like to make sure that everybody's looking good and straight as this comes together. And then the last part of the knot, so we'll wrap around the front, and that creates this pocket here. That's where we're gonna pull the tie through at the very end. So we wrap around the front. Make sure that this wrap as well, this front wrap, this determines the tightness of the knot as well. Make sure this is how you want it to look, as loose or as tight as you want it to be. And then we pull around the back, up through that hole. Now that it's up, and then we pull down through that knot that we created. So we take that tie, push it in through that hole, and this is the end of the knot. This is the end of the tie. So make sure as you're pulling him through that you're keeping everything straight, making sure everything looks good as you're doing it, because once you're finished, once you pull this through, the knot's done. And you can't undo it unless you restart. So make sure everything looks the way you want it to look as you're pulling through that pocket. Make sure everybody's straight, flat looking, as good as you can. And pull that knot through, pull that tie through, and that's it. See, that's how you tie a tie. So we have our knot, we have our tie. It looks good. Now, just the last finishing touches. In order to tighten a tie, you want to grab that knot on each side there, and you push it up, and you're going to pull down on the thin guy as you're tightening this. So you pull them up into your neck, nice and tight. Looks good. When you want to tighten it and you want to loosen it, you'll grab the top of that knot there, and you just kind of wiggle him down, loosen him up. Now, if you want to do a little life hack early in your tie career, you don't want to have to retie it, you're just doing this for 1 or 2 events, and you don't care about ever learning how to tie again, you can just keep this guy, loosen him up enough to fit him over your head, and then just pull it off. And just hang this in your closet. That's what I did for majority of my tie career. Just have these guys hanging around, and then whenever you want to tie again, whenever you want to put them up, got another event, just throw them over your head, pull them in. No judgment. I did this too. It's not good for your ties. It's going to leave creases in it. You should learn how to tie a tie, but if you don't, it's a nice little life hack. Last bit. You want to make sure you have this loop on the back. You want to put your thin end through that loop, because if you don't, you end up having this thing that happens and looks sloppy. You want to have it go through that loop. Keep it nice and straight, nice and sharp looking. Pull your collar down. There you go. You can kind of adjust it as you go, loosen it if it's feeling too tight. And you can see what I was talking about with where it falls down. Now I know if I do my tie this tight, kind of tighter the way I like it, and if I start with the thicker end being a few inches past the crotch like I was showing you at the beginning, I know that my tie is going to fall down like this every time. So that's how I base it, and that's how I do it.